Hello everyone, my name is Ozzy and welcome to a Tier 3 Autocrafter tutorial, where we turn a box full of resources into a box full of boom so that you can rule the world, or at least your little corner of it. This system will allow you to craft both C4 and rockets in your desired quantity, and conserve resources if you're missing some ingredients. It will also allow you to craft any pistol, shotgun, or rifle ammo. We'll do a brief overview so you can see how it works, and then we'll go into the build step by step. Our input conveyors are here on the left. This bottom one feeds into our bottom crafter, which will handle crafting all of our ammo and our explosives. The explosives will split off back into our input chain, and this conveyor will handle determining how much ammo we want to craft so that we aren't overproducing. Our top crafter will handle crafting our C4 and rockets, and this system is efficient enough that nothing stays in the output box down here. It all is available for immediate use. Our conveyors on the left will put in tech trash, pipes, and the rest of the input resources necessary for C4 and rockets. The top two will tell the system which to craft next. When rockets and C4 come out into our output box, this top conveyor will initiate a system check, where we check to see if we have our desired quantity of C4 and our desired quantity of rockets. If either check comes back negative, the system initiates a new craft for the missing boom. The system uses 14 power total and comes in both military green and jet black. For the build, I've already placed a tier 3 power source in a couple of boxes for us. We're also going to need 2 industrial crafters, 2 storage adapters, 8 industrial conveyors, 4 industrial splitters, 2 industrial combiners, 3 electrical branches, a splitter, 3 ore switches, an AND switch, and 2 timers. We'll place the crafters on the workbench, the storage adapters on the boxes, and then we need a conveyor to the left of our crafter, a splitter underneath coming from the inputs. We'll also need a splitter on the back side for our outputs, with a conveyor above it. And we will need a combiner right before our output box. We take our trusty pipe wrench, connect our input to the splitter, to the conveyor, to the crafter, to the other splitter, to the conveyor, to the combiner, to our output box. We also need one more output from the splitter to our input chain to reroute our explosives. Next, we're going to drop in our blueprints. And the one we really care about for this crafter is the explosives, which uses gunpowder, low grade, sulfur, and frags. Now, because all of this ammo down here uses the same inputs as the explosives, that means we can craft any of it in there as well. So we'll grab the explosives. I'm also going to grab explosive rifle ammo, slugs, and pistol ammo. And even though these are from tier 2 and tier 1 workbenches, our tier 3 can craft them no problem. Now, this isn't the most efficient way to craft things using workbench crafters because of tiered crafting, but if you only want one crafter, it is an option. So we're just gonna drop everything in here. Eventually we'll get that order right. And it's not necessary to put the inputs in here. Our conveyors will do that for us later. However, it is absolutely necessary to have the outputs in here. We need at least one of every item we want to craft. That's because if the rest of these aren't in here, the system's only going to craft the leftmost blueprint, and it's going to fill all of these spaces with pistol ammo, and that's not what we want. We also need to figure out how to prioritize what we want crafted. Do we craft all of our ammo first and then focus on boom, or do we craft our boom first and then focus on ammo? If we're crafting our boom first, if we have a ton of resources and a ton of components, we may never get around to crafting ammo. If we craft all of our ammo first and we constantly are coming back to base, grabbing more ammo and using it, we may never get around to crafting boom. So tweak your system, figure out what the right sort of sweet spot is for you so that you have both, and it may be that you need to dedicate one workbench to boom and one to ammo. Now, your outputs don't need to be in the same order as your blueprints. The blueprints are really the only thing that matters. So if I care about my explosive ammo first, and then all of my boom, and then I'll worry about the rest of the ammo later, I would put it in this configuration, and this can just stay here. Also, if you're only doing, say, 1 or 2 recipes in here, just fill the extra output with any useless item. It just saves space and prevents you from overcrafting. Next, we'll need to set up our filters. Our left filter is going to handle all of our input items. which are going to be these four here. So we need gunpowder, low-grade, frags, and sulfur. And then we want to put maximums on the amount that it's going to take to complete any one craft. Now I already know that explosives has the most resources requirements out of all of the ammo except for the incendiary shotgun shell, so I'm just going to use those numbers. So we need 50, 3, 10, and 10. This way we only have as much resources in our crafter as we need for a single craft. We're not filling it with full stacks of 1,000 or 500 or anything like that. We also want to put a minimum of 1 here so that we can keep a placeholder in our input box so that it doesn't completely fill up with metal frags or something like that, and then we end up never having low grade in there or something like that. Also, this is going to stay on any item. That way it constantly fills and it's not worried about buffers or anything. On our output side, this is going to be for everything except for explosives. Like I said earlier, you can ignore all 3 of these components if you aren't crafting anything other than explosives, and then just pipe directly back into the inputs. For us, this means we're going to be putting explosive ammo and slugs and pistol ammo on here. And here's where we set our maximums that we want the system to craft. Say we do 3 stacks. We also want to put a minimum of 1 so it keeps that placeholder in our crafter. And then filter mode is going to be any item. Now keep in mind that this means that's our maximum that we want in the box. So we'll have 3 stacks in the box, but the crafter is going to, if this is our craft order, the crafter is going to start with explosive ammo. And then once our box has those 3 stacks in it that we've set in our maximum, it's also going to fill this stack in here before it moves on to the next blueprint. So you're actually going to end up with 1 stack in addition to whatever your filter is. This will go immediately into the box once you pull the others out. So it's not like you're wasting anything, it's just additional storage. But keep that in mind when you set your maximum filters. Now for the top portion of our system, we need a combiner, as well as 3 conveyors, a splitter off of our inputs. We'll connect the splitters together, the splitter to each of the conveyors, conveyors to the combiner, into the crafter. Then for our output, we need 1 conveyor connected to the crafter, and then to our output box. Then we'll do our system checks with 1 splitter and 2 conveyors. Output box to splitter, and then to each conveyor. Now for our top crafter, the inputs aren't going to be as simple as for our bottom crafter. That's because we have more than 4 unique inputs. However, what we can do is we can make 3 of those inputs static, meaning we're always going to be trying to fill the crafter with them. And we can alternate whether we have tech trash or pipes go in for the next craft so that the system knows what to make. With this method, it doesn't matter what order your blueprints are in because our filters are going to decide that for us. And then our only static inputs are these 3 here, which will be controlled by our bottom filter. So we'll need gunpowder, explosives, and cloth. Now we want to set our maximums for the highest number necessary for a single craft. Explosives is going to be 20 for the C4, cloth will be 5, and then the rockets use 150 gunpowder. We want to set a minimum of 1 to keep that placeholder in our input box, and then filter mode will be any item. So this way, this conveyor is always trying to make sure that this crafter has as many of these 3 resources as necessary to craft either of these items. Our next 2 filters are really important as to what you put in them. One will be tech trash, one will be pipes. The one that you want priority to craft will go in the top. So if we want to craft all of our C4 first before attempting to craft rockets, we'll put tech trash in the top. If we want to prioritize rockets, pipes will go in the top instead. So we'll put tech trash up here, and then Our max is going to be 2 because we only want enough for 1 craft in there at a time. We also want to set a buffer of 2. What this will do is tell the system, hey, only pass tech trash in there if you have enough for putting in both. We don't want to pass 1 in there and then the system be waiting for an additional 1 and then clog up the system. We also want a 1 here so that we keep that 1 spot in our box to make sure we always have room for additional resources. Your filter mode can state any item, and then we'll do the same for this one for pipes. On our output side, you don't actually have to put anything in here, but I like to tell the system what to expect. It helps me debug if things go wrong. So I'm going to put these 2 in here, no actual filters, and filter mode is any item. All we really need out of this is for it to tell the system, hey, we finished crafting. There's an item that passed through, because we're going to use that signal to do things. For our system check, your top conveyor here must be the item that's crafted using the component in the top conveyor on the left. So since we put tech trash in here, our top conveyor on the right is going to be C4. Our bottom then will be rockets. And this is where we set our buffer to the amount that we want crafted. For the top one, it's the amount we want crafted before we move on to the next item. So if I only want 10 C4 crafted at a time, I'll put 10 in the buffer. Filter mode stays any item. And then if I want to absolutely fill the rest of the box with rockets, I just put some large number that isn't possible, and it'll keep the system constantly on, never turning off. I could also set this to a more reasonable number like 12, 20, something, I don't know. Live your life. Filter mode will be any item, and then we click apply. Because we're using the buffer filter here, we don't actually have to pass any items through in order for this to work. It'll detect whether that quantity of items is in the box and then give us a fail or a success based on that number. Next, we'll set up our electricals. Every system needs power, so we'll start by adding 2 branches. This first branch will connect to our power source eventually, but we're going to do that later. We'll take the power out from the first branch into the power in on the second, configure the second branch for 5 power, and then branch out to power our input conveyors and our top crafter, going through the pass-through to power in nodes. The power out on this branch is going to power our output conveyors on the right side, as well as our bottom crafter. We'll configure the left branch for 6 and connect a splitter. This will eventually be connected to 3 other components, giving each of them 2 power. Now our top 2 conveyors are going to be powered on by our system check at the end, but we want them to power off under 2 separate conditions: whenever they've successfully passed an item through to the crafter, and whenever we don't have enough items to craft. We can do that using the filter pass and filter fail nodes. The filter pass will send 1 power through whenever it's successfully passed an item, and the filter fail will send 1 power through when we don't have enough resources for a craft. Since we want to turn the conveyor off under 2 separate conditions, we'll need an OR switch for each conveyor. And I'm going to use red wire to indicate the filter fail, green to indicate filter pass, and the orange one to go into the turn off node on the conveyor. The second conveyor, we can connect each node directly to the OR switch. And then the OR switch to the turn off node on the conveyor. The top conveyor, however, is a little trickier. We can send the filter pass directly to the OR switch, but the filter fail, we want to be able to do 2 different things. We want it to be able to turn off the conveyor, but we also want it to tell the system we don't have enough resources to craft the first item, so that it can move on to attempt to craft the second item. Since only 1 power comes through the filter fail, we're not going to be able to split that into 2, so we're going to have to add additional power to that signal. We're going to add an AND switch, connect some additional power from our splitter. And this is going to be steady state power, meaning it's always active. An AND switch will send the highest power through whenever both nodes are active. So since our left node is always active, that means the AND switch will send power through whenever we receive a fail signal from the conveyor. The splitter is going to send 2 power, so the AND switch will be sending that 2 power through whenever we receive a fail signal. So we can then use a branch to split that fail signal into 2. One is going to branch out to our OR switch, which we can then connect to our turn off node on the conveyor. Next, we'll set up our system check conveyors on the right side, which are going to turn on our input conveyors on the left. Each of these will be powered by a timer, which we will set for 5 seconds. And then these will draw power from our splitter on the left. Giving them 2 power each. The power out from each timer will go to the power in on the conveyor next to it. And then we're also going to loop the pass through on the conveyor to the turn on node to ensure that this conveyor turns on anytime it receives power. Now we want our system check to activate anytime we've successfully passed items from our top crafter through to our output box. So we're going to take the filter pass node from our top conveyor and send it over here to the toggle on node on our top timer. This will activate the system check for our first item, see if we have as many items as we want, and if we don't, we'll use the filter fail node to connect to the conveyor on the left side to initiate a craft for that item. So we'll go to the turn on node on the conveyor with the tech trash, telling the system to craft another C4. If we do have as much C4 as we want to tell the system to look to see if we have as many rockets. We could do this by connecting the filter pass to the toggle on the timer, but I also want this to happen whenever we don't have enough items to craft C4. So I'm going to place an OR switch, and then I will connect the filter pass node from the first system check, and I'm also going to connect to the amplified filter fail signal that we placed on our input conveyor for our first item. Then we can take the power out on the OR switch to the toggle on the timer, and then under either condition we will begin to check for rockets to see if we need to craft more. If we do want more, we'll send the filter fail across here to our second input conveyor, telling the system to add more pipes into the crafter to craft more rockets. If we have as many rockets as we want, we don't actually need to do anything with this filter pass node. The system will just turn itself off. However, you could use the filter pass node to activate a light. Just keep in mind the light won't stay on without steady power from somewhere else, because this conveyor only receives power for the duration of the timer. And finally, it's time to dump some resources into our input box. Now you can definitely add a conveyor with a combiner in front of your input box so that you can connect it to the rest of your storage system. Just make sure you place some smart filters on there to make sure that you have enough room for all of the items you need and to limit how many resources you have flowing into the system and such. Then we will connect the first electrical branch into our power. We'll turn on our 2 bottom input conveyors, our 2 output conveyors, our 2 crafters, and then we'll activate the top crafter using the top timer. So now our resources are flowing into our crafters. Our top crafter is receiving tech trash so we can start our first C4 craft. And we're not going to be crafting C4 just yet because we did put our explosive ammo as priority. So right now the system is trying to craft explosive ammo, which is getting passed into our box on the right. And then once this gets to our requisite number, which we put 3 stacks in the filter, it'll fill up that 1 stack in here, move on to making explosives, and then it will make explosives for as long as we have enough resources to make the C4 and the rockets, after which it will move on to the other items. And that is the C4 and rockets auto crafter. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, please hit that thumbs up button. Feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. Leave any questions or comments for me down below, and I will see you all next time.